Hello everybody, welcome to my new video, and today we have a 2020 presidential election matchup between President Donald Trump and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Well, this is one of the likeliest matches for the 2020 presidential election, and I do see some Bernie momentum here. He's an outsider, he doesn't receive funds from PACs or special interests. He appeals to young folks, those millennials who want change, but I still see I would say that President Trump still has the upper hand here. Let me explain why. Bernie Sanders doesn't really receive support from the party's leadership. He doesn't receive full support from the establishment because he's an outsider. And because of his political stances too. And he doesn't appeal to minorities. You can see in 2016 Democratic primaries that Hillary Clinton outperformed Bernie in gaining votes from ethnic minorities and also women. And in 2016, a lot of women voted for Clinton because there's a lot of because they just wanted the first female president. And I don't see that momentum for Bernie if he's the candidate in 2020. And don't forget that Bernie is Jewish, and there's still anti-Semitism in this country, and those anti-Jewish folks are not gonna support Bernie if he's a candidate. This is because of his religion. Like in 1960, when Senator John F. Kennedy ran, and some Protestants didn't want him, a Roman Catholic, to be president, but he did win anyway. And yeah, I forgot to mention that Bernie leans too far to the left, and a lot of Democrats don't lean that far to the left, and a lot of independents don't lean that far to the left, and Bernie would end up losing votes from these moderate folks. And I forgot to add that the Trump campaign can run vicious attack ads against Bernie, against socialism, and tie socialism to those failures. And you mustn't forget that Bernie comes from the state of Vermont, and the state of Vermont attempted to espouse the policies of universal health care, and that attempt failed horribly. And so that can be tied to Bernie too, and this is not a good thing for him. So these are the cons against Bernie, and basically pros for Trump. And don't forget that President Trump has incumbency advantage. Every incumbent president who seeks re-election has it, and this is the reason why I say that President Trump had the momentum here. Now let's get to our electoral map. States that are safe for Bernie Sanders are those typical blue states. States in the West Coast and Northeastern states, except for the state of Maine and New Hampshire. And the state of Illinois would be safe for Bernie Sanders too. Actually, Maine, Trump won the second district there in 2016 by a big margin, and but he didn't win in other districts, and the race wasn't very close in other districts. So I'm gonna put them for Bernie Sanders, and now we'll go ahead and give Trump all those typical red states. Now, you might be wondering why I left Nebraska's second district this time. The reason is that then Senator Obama won this district in 2008, and Bernie Sanders is a type of candidate that may be able to flip that back. Anyway, in the state of Nevada, I would say that Bernie Sanders doesn't have much of a chance. He doesn't have Southwest appeal. He doesn't appeal to minorities, but there are a lot of Hispanic voters, a lot of minority voters in the state of Nevada, and Bernie Sanders didn't do well in the Nevada Democratic caucus in 2016. He lost it to Hillary Clinton. So I would say that President Trump would be able to flip the state to the Republican column. But I don't think that President Trump will be able to flip the state of Colorado and New Mexico, despite Bernie Sanders not having that Southwest appeal, because those two states, there were progressives and moderates there. There were minority voters there to whom Trump doesn't appeal. And those states have moved left in recent years. They have voted for Barack Obama twice, and I don't think that President Trump has a chance in those two states. But I would say that President Trump will win the state of Arizona, because Arizona has a solid red identity, and Bernie Sanders doesn't appeal to Southwesterners, and he doesn't appeal to minority voters. So Colorado and New Mexico for Sanders, and Arizona for Trump. Trump could win in the state of Iowa and the 2nd district of Nebraska too, because there are a lot of white voters there, and Trump appeals to them. And those states have mild red tilt for now. So I don't see Sanders winning in those states, and I'm gonna give those two to Trump. Meanwhile, I see Bernie Sanders holding on to the state of Minnesota. There aren't enough white conservatives there. There aren't enough people that can be attracted by Trump. And the state has a long history of voting Democrat. The last time it voted for a Republican candidate in a presidential election is in 1972. It's more than 40 years ago. And I would like to point out that there's some conservative trends there, but the state can flip, but I don't think that it will flip in 2020. Now, I'm gonna skip the states, the Rust Belt states for now, because those are gonna be hotly competitive in 2020. Now, for the state of New Hampshire, I would say that Bernie Sanders wins, because he did pretty well in this 2016 New Hampshire primary. And there are a lot of millennials in the state of New Hampshire to whom Bernie Sanders appeals. So I don't see this state going to Trump. And for Maine's 2nd district, it's a rural area, and I would say that Trump still wins in this scenario, although Bernie Sanders did pretty well in the Maine primary in 2016. And I would say that President Trump wins in the state of North Carolina and Florida too. These two states are the states that voted for him in both the GOP primaries and the general elections in 2016. And Bernie Sanders lost these two states in the Democratic primaries. He lost Florida to Hillary Clinton by more than 500,000 votes, and he lost North Carolina by more than 150,000 thousand votes. So these two states are not gonna be good for Bernie Sanders. North Carolina itself has mild red tilt, and although there's some gun control fiasco, gun control platform in the Florida in the wake of the Parkland shooting, I still see President Trump's momentum there. There's conservative in that state, and President Trump can call out those conservatives to vote for him in the 2020 presidential election. And it's noteworthy that some conservatives are moving into Florida, so that would likely strengthen Trump's base in the state of Florida. But in the state of Virginia, I would say that Bernie Sanders wins, because any Democratic candidate that runs against Trump would win the state of Virginia. Trump doesn't appeal to Virginia's more educated, more moderate voters. And Virginia has moved left in recent years. It voted for Barack Obama. It voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, and I don't see President Trump winning there. So I'm gonna give Virginia's 13 electoral votes to Bernie Sanders. Now let's talk about the Rust Belt states. Actually, just the state of Wisconsin and Michigan. These two states still have the Democratic identity. They voted for Barack Obama twice, and there are a lot of working class people there, and to whom both Trump and Sanders appeal. And Sanders did well in these two states in the Democratic primaries in 2016. He won in these two states, while Trump won just Michigan and lost Wisconsin to Ted Cruz in the GOP primary. But anyway, Trump won these two states in the general election by a slim margin. Yeah, only a slim margin, because the Democratic Party wasn't prepared for losing these two states. Working class white voters coming out to vote for Trump wasn't expected. And now the Democratic Party has learned a lesson, and I don't think that the Democratic Party would let these two states to go to Trump again. They can still be flipped, because Trump won by a very slim margin in 2016, and Sanders appeals very well to these two states' constituents. So I would give these two states to Bernie Sanders. Now, for the state of Ohio, I would think that President Trump wins, because he won the state of Ohio by a large margin in 2016, and I think the state of Ohio is a safe state. It's probably safe for Trump in 2020. Although he lost the primary there in 2016 to John Kasich, but that's only because Kasich was from Ohio. He has the state influence, and Bernie Sanders lost the Ohio primary, so I don't think that that's gonna work pretty well for Sanders. I think the state of Ohio by far has been a safe Trump state. And finally, the state of Pennsylvania, the state that would determine this entire election. The race here will be pretty close, and there are a lot of things to be considered. President Trump won the state in 2016 by only 44,000 votes, and he won the GOP primary here by more than 500,000 votes. It seems contradictory. But anyway, Bernie Sanders lost the Pennsylvania primary to Hillary Clinton by more than 200,000 votes. So this is not a good sign for Sanders in 2020. And although Sanders does appeal to working class white voters, Trump would still receive support from steel workers, steel manufacturers, and those rural counties, because of his social policies and his economic policies of protectionism, he imposed steel tariffs and aluminum tariffs, and that would likely solidify his base here. But anyway, we can see that the Democratic Party gained the momentum in Pennsylvania too. We can see that in the special election where the Democratic candidate won. So the race would be pretty tough here. But I would say that President Trump wins anyway. So this is the final electoral map for this scenario of the 2020 presidential election. What are the likeliest? President Trump, in my prediction, will have 286 electoral votes, and Bernie Sanders will have 252 electoral votes, and Trump will continue to be our 45th president of the United States, and will be the 4th president in a row to be re-elected. The race here would be so tough because Bernie Sanders is an effective candidate. He has a clean profile, and he's a good profile candidate. So the race here would be hard for President Trump to go through, but he would probably pass through it and win his second term anyway. So thank you all so much for watching. You can subscribe to my channel for more political videos like this, and I'll see you all later.